Welcome everybody to our session today about supporting international students in e-learning. My name is Mary Rotundo. I'm an instructional designer here at the Center for E-Learning at FAU. It is our pleasure today to have our community of practice, our statewide community of practice about this very, very special topic. My co-moderator is Kathleen McPherson. Kathy, are you there?
Hi, it's great to see you all, especially hi Willie, we missed you while you were away on vacation. And yeah, it's great to see everybody. I'm here in Jupiter at the Jupiter campus.
Okay, so we have a very special presentation planned for you today with our guests, our panel of experts joining us to talk about how to support and how to enhance the experience of our international students. Before I introduce our panel, I want to talk a little bit about why we're doing this today and kind of put our conversation today into perspective by talking a little bit about what's happening in terms of international student enrollment, trends, places where they come to study in the US. So the first figure I want to share with you is our first infographic. So as of 2016, we had 1 million international students enrolled in higher education in the US. It's a staggering figure, very impressive. There was a trend, a growth, 7% increase in enrollment over the previous year in 2016, which is also a and then we also, next please. So where are these international students coming from? Outstanding presence of...
We're getting some bad noise here.
Oh, thank you for letting us know. So let's go back to the first infographic then, Barbara. So we were saying that the context for this conversation is the amazing growth in the number of international students attending higher education institutions in the US, with more than 1 million in 2015 and 16, and a growth of 7% in the last year. Very impressive. And then students coming mainly from China, India, and Saudi Arabia, and South Korea. China being 32% of all the international students coming to the States. So very, very impressive. And then where are these students going? So 3 states, California, New York, and Texas, get the main influx of international students, but Florida is definitely there on the map. We have between 30,000 and 60,000 international students. And in a moment, I'm going to introduce our panel, and our panel members will be able to tell us how many international students do we have here at FAU. My last infographic shows that at least 5% of the student population in every state is international. Some states, of course, have higher populations, like Massachusetts, District of Columbia, New York, but at least 5% of our students are international statewide as a general trend. So I brought these figures today just to kind of open a conversation that is very close to the hearts of everybody on this table today. And with that, I'm going to introduce our panel.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carol Stax-Fromm. I'm the Executive Director of Navitas here at Florida Atlantic University. Navitas is a partner for international student enrollment and broader internationalization efforts. So we partner with the international office here at FAU. Very happy to be part of this panel today. In addition to working with international students for many years, I also did a lot with international online learning. And the early 2000s put my department's courses online on Blackboard, and also did my dissertation on global virtual communities of practice. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Hello, everybody. I am Kathleen, and I am an international service director, overseeing the compliance with the federal regulations regarding F and J visa holders, as well as overseeing the programming part that has to do with the intercultural adjustment. And I have been in this position very shortly, however, working with international students and employees in the long past as a part of a private sector, the Siemens company. For more than 15 years, pretty much. I have been with international services for the past 4 years, and I'm also looking forward to talking about this subject. And I'm really very happy that there is a awareness of the online courses for international students, and that maybe together we can come up with some solutions to make it easier and better for everybody. So thank you and welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Sharon Rodriguez Benagos. I just started working as a coordinator and VSO at Florida Atlantic University. I was an international student. I just became a permanent resident in April, so I have the experience of being an international student for 5 years, and I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
Hi everyone, my name is Qing Qing. Last name is Tree. I'm a graduate student in the International Service Office. I'm also come from China. I'm in the PhD program in higher ed leadership. This is my 3rd year as in the doctoral, but actually my 5th year in FAU. So I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you so much for having this session to help us all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we wanted to create, start a conversation, but also create synergy between, yeah.
Were you going to let the other?
No.
Okay. Oh, I'm
Between
sorry.
it's okay. The institution itself and our faculty members. So we invited one of our most amazing, engaging faculty members. He couldn't be here today, but he did record a video for us. So we're going to hear from Professor O.J. Marquez.
Hello, my name is O.J. Marquez. I am a professor of engineering and computer science at Florida Atlantic University. I want to thank Mary Rotundo for her kind invitation to record this short video to be part of the Supporting International Students in eLearning Professional Development Workshop. I believe this is a very important topic, and I hope that my observations will be considered helpful to the discussion that is taking place on this topic. For background purposes, I was born and raised in Brazil, where I did my 2 undergraduate degrees. I then moved to the Netherlands for my master's, went back to Brazil, started a career in academia, and eventually in 1997 came to Florida Atlantic University for my PhD studies. I will not stay here after the beginning of my PhD.
Out again, problem.
History. I have been at FAU for a total of 20 years now, first as a student, then instructor, assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor. I have been exposed to a number of different educational systems, a number of different cultures, and even after settling down as a professor here at FAU, I have engaged in a number of international collaborations and have taught several courses in other countries, particularly in Austria, where I have been teaching regularly for the past 8 years, and India, where I had the privilege to teach once back in 2003. So I believe it's fair to say that I know the problem, if you want to call it that, of international students and assimilating international students and their culture and their background and their expectations into a course, whether the course is presented in traditional face-to-face delivery mode or in an e-learning format. I have been actively involved with e-learning projects with the wonderful team from FAU Center for eLearning over the past few years. And that is one of the reasons why I got this invitation to participate in this seminar.
Thank you. All right, so we also have virtual attendees. We would like to hear from you attending virtually today. If you would very quickly introduce yourselves so our panel members know who you are.
All right, I'll go first. My name is David Mann. I'm an adjunct professor in the College of Education.
Hi, I'm Vonda Lieberman. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Architecture.
Hi, I'm Janice Cerveny, and I'm in the College of Business in the Department of Management.
And I'm Bob Cerveny. I'm in the College of Business in ITOM.
Hi, I'm Lian Fentie from the Math Department in Boca Raton.
I'm Alan Barsky, School of Social Work, Boca Raton.
All right, so let's talk about our objectives today. So first of all, we want to identify the unique contributions of international students, both in the online classroom and the face-to-face classroom. Also distinguish their needs in the online classroom, particularly, although they're very similar. And then we would like to discuss with all of our attendees and our panel members how to scaffold the social aspect of the online learning experience in trying to meet the needs of our international students. As we were preparing these discussion, we wanted to come up with kind of burning questions that we will take away for further reflection. And this is where these two last objectives come into play. We would like to assess the benefits for meeting the needs of our international students for the class at large, and particularly for our teaching practice, and hopefully leave this conversation today with a willingness to try to seek ways to incorporate these strategies into our teaching practice in the future. So like we've been saying, this is the beginning of a very important and hopefully a transformative conversation. So we're going to move on now to our first question.
Mary?
Yes.
I would like to introduce Veronica. Veronica Diaz from the College of Business, adjunct faculty.
Okay.
And also Mr. Alan Barsky has a question.
Okay.
He wants to know if we will also be talking about students who are enrolling courses but are not physically present in the United States.
That does come up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask real quick?
Sure.
How we're defining an international student?
What a great question.
Okay.
What a great question, because we did talk about that, and I will leave it then on the expert hands on our panel.
So I'm sorry, how do you define it? I have a bunch of things going on in my head, not sure.
Right. Well, we have a very large international population, a lot of people who are coming from different countries, but not necessarily they have international student status. So the question, to answer your question, the population of international students is defined the students who are here on F or J student visa. And the population that we have here in the Florida Atlantic University is around 850 students, plus minus. The population is growing every year. We don't know what to expect in the future, but we are hoping it will continue to grow. But these are, majority of these students are on F visa. It's specifically for international students who are degree seeking. And we also have exchange students who are coming from other countries and exchanging with the students who are here at FAU, considered to be domestic students. And this population usually comes here on the J visa, and they are here not to degree seeking in mostly, but just to spend one or a couple of semesters to gain the experience from our institution and our culture, and then go back and continue with their study in their country.
Great question. Thank you. All right. So, what is the unique? What makes a student international classroom in particular So let's hear from you guys.
Well, I'll start, sure. Well, I think the obvious thing is they're bringing in more of a global context to everything that's happening in that classroom, the discussions. But we also get that from diversity, domestic diversity as well. So in my experience of working with faculty and being faculty and learning how to best work with international students, I think the great part is that as you learn these strategies, it only makes you a much stronger instructor for all types of students in the classroom. I feel like this is kind of the highest level of being a great instructor and being able to reach all the students in your classroom. One of the things I found it really made me do that I appreciated from the international students is it really makes you examine your personal biases, because it makes you think about, okay, I'm saying this, so what does it mean to people from all parts of the world? It also makes you think about your specific field of expertise in a global context, because you're used to talking to people locally about it, and now you're thinking, okay, does this make sense to a student from Southeast Asia? And also, obviously, your teaching methodology. In this country, we certainly have certain ways of teaching, and you need to really examine, is this really reaching the majority of the students in your classroom? And again, I think that crosses lines, domestic and international students as well. So they bring a great perspective, but they also really help you as an instructor really think critically about how you're teaching.
Absolutely. Any comments from you?
Definitely different perspectives. I feel like being in class with different students from different countries, sometimes as a student you feel like you're seeing things like this, and then all of a sudden a different student from a different background will tell you that they say it a different way. So all of a sudden you feel like you're seeing like this, and then you start seeing like a very large picture when before you were wearing this Google that they didn't allow you to see all the different perspectives from something. But it's definitely the same, it's just that they didn't approach it that way.
Great visual.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think as an international student myself, I would say definitely the experience, having class with domestic students together, and also how to let our voice being heard is also very important as international student, because students may get a lot of information from media, social media, from news, whatever, but not all of them are correct. Yeah. So when they're asking you the question, they want to hear your clarification as a native, like Chinese or native, from your own country. So that way you have that cultural exchange, and also you understand why you think that way. So why the difference? We're not like really different, but after you talk, you understand, okay, that's the reason why they think differently. So I think on the class level is like we talk together, and also we do homework together. That's a personal exchange. I think that's really powerful to be connected.
Absolutely. Anything else? Anything from our audience? No?
I think this is Janice. One of the things that I have noticed, and it's kind of leveraging off of who had provided the first set of insights, but I think one of the things that I have learned, and it opened my eyes and it made me think a little bit, is to start to question how we assess our students. I've had students from Spain. I have taught internationally in a number of different venues, and having a Japanese mother also gives you a different perspective. But I think that what struck me is how many times they have said that they have never had courses where pretty much they were evaluated only by multiple choice tests, and they didn't care for that. They are much more used to very in-depth examinations and or many times even oral exams. And that kind of made me think a little bit about what we expect and how we try and evaluate what it is that they actually understand and have learned.
Thank you, Janice.
Yes, definitely. One of the things we will come back to is our assessment strategies and try to reach out all of those different styles and cultural expectations. Anybody else?
Hi, yeah, this is Kathy up in Jupiter, and I would add that in a moment, we're going to talk about challenges that these students bring to the table. And I would submit that having people who are dealing with those particular challenges also brings an appreciation for, it challenges me in terms of, wow, they have to work really hard for this. It brings a special flavor to the whole conversation, the whole experience. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for leading us into our next topic, challenges. Oh,
don't you want to let O'Shea?
Oh, right. Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I have a few things that I want to mention in reply to the three main points in the form associated with this event. And the form asks what types of contributions or unique contributions do you believe international students bring to the online classroom? I would say by far the first one is this broadening of horizons, this diversity of perspective. If you or myself as a faculty member acknowledge that we have this richness of backgrounds, experiences, religious viewpoints, food culture, or whatever it is that we want to leverage, we may indeed end up with a very rich combination of unique contributions and very unusual viewpoints that those students bring to the table. In India, for instance, they have this utmost respect for the figure of the professor, and to the point that they stand up, they raise when the professor enters the room. They have the habit of praying in the first slot of the day. And just those two aspects, if properly communicated and brought into the discussions, could make the student feel welcome for their willingness to present certain things that he or she was exposed to in their home country.
All right, so on the other end of this, we have that the experience of being an international student can be very challenging for many reasons. And we wanted to bring to the table different perspectives. Each of us here has a different background. So I know myself, I was a language teacher for 20 years, and I'm also an international student myself. So I know how important language is in shaping this experience. But there are other challenges that we would like to also address today. So that's the next question. What are the unique challenges that international students face in an online classroom? And again, these will be very similar to the ones they face in the face-to-face classroom, and some of them will be different. So we'll be talking about both. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. I took some online classes before. So the challenge, I would say the first thing is, sometimes if I have the in-person class, if I don't understand the content, I can raise up the question real quick. But when I'm online, that depends on what kind of online class we have. If it is an online class, you just submit your homework through Blackboard or Canvas, no interaction, that's one form of online. The other form is you have this video Skype or whatever thing, all the students are having their voice heard. That's two different. So for the first one, I just submit my paper there, but I don't get the very extensive feedback coming back. So when I have a clarification, I need to ask or got feedback on, I don't think that's very direct feedback I can get from that kind of online form. And also I got so lazy sometimes I have that on my schedule, but you never really stick on that if you're not organized enough. So I have to push myself very hard to finish the homework one by one, because you can easily miss out because you don't have to go to class physically. The other thing I would say is in-person class, I have that personal connection with the professor. So I don't feel embarrassed if I raise up some silly questions. Because sometimes that accent. Like if you have a professor who have an accent, you probably cannot really fully understand if there's a talking class online. So if you're in person, you feel more comfortable to talk. But online, it's more intimidating when you raise up the question, saying, hey, sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. That's a little bit embarrassed. So as a student, I would say, probably there should be more support, like clarification support for international students. I just feel like myself, I need more personal relationship to build up, to feel comfortable to raise up questions myself. Yes.
I agree that there are different online classes. I think that the challenge that I had was, again, like to not be able to be in a class with other students. I remember my first class online, I asked the professor, but where are we going to meet? He said, no, we're not meeting anywhere. This is happening online. And I felt very like stressed and anxious because I have never had an online class before. I didn't know when I was supposed to do the homework, when I was supposed to read the book. So I was able to find other students in my class that they also were more intrapersonal learners. And we were able to like get together and learn together or meet and read the book together. So I think that finding opportunities for students to meet with them, because a lot of times, I know for me, it's not hard to send an email and say, hey, do you want to meet? Or hey, I'm new, let's get together. I know for me, it's not a challenge, but it might be for other students. So even setting up some meeting times or maybe study partners or group study for that class as well, that can also be some way a challenge and also a strategy.
Well, from what our students are saying, international students who had a chance to be online, and also from the research, I believe that the challenges that the students meet are they basically prefer the well-structured courses over the rather, you know, the online may not give that exact well structure, may not give that opportunity to interact and ask questions in the middle of the assignment when there were questions may raise, right? So that's one of the difficulties that they have to overcome. Another thing is that I read that international students online are exhibiting the face-saving behavior. That's another thing that they are maybe not, so compared with domestic students, maybe they are not feeling very comfortable and very assertive to really express their opinions or share their opinions in general. So that's another thing. In general, they may feel a little bit more isolated, I would think, because of that human interpersonal, you know, communication, the body language, which is so much helpful to international students, I can imagine. And I have been an international student as well years ago. And I remember my biggest problem was always, I didn't take online classes, but my biggest problem was talking on the phone. Not only because I couldn't understand everything people were saying, but also because I just missed that whole body communication that is so much, you know, even the smile or the look from your face can really make the whole change in your approach and make you feel much more comfortable if you don't have that. So the isolation and also the misunderstanding of some of the vernacular phrases and the acronyms that often were my biggest challenge when I first came to this country, and they are until today.
Yes, and I would agree.
Sometimes it's just very, very difficult to overcome that. You don't want to look silly that you don't know something so obvious. So I think awareness on the part, well, we're going to be talking about solutions to that, but I think the awareness of the teachers who are teaching online classes of all those difficulties would really help. Maybe we could come up together with some solutions and you know, make it a little bit easier.
And I can tell you that what you saw as our idiosyncratic language from the instructor perspective as well, because I've had an international student really make that awareness to me as to what is it are you really saying when you're saying, you know, it's not raining cats and dogs.
Yes.
And so I've had, as I did with accessibility, have a student teach me.
Well, that's what the first slide when we had, what do they bring? I just wanted to add after the professor talking about it, that really we can learn so much empathy as instructors and teachers, because we are becoming all of a sudden aware that there is so much more into the world, and we can really be more understanding and open for all those things. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add, I know there's special challenges when the instructor is not really explicit about expectations for the behavior and participation. And I know students who are not used to being evaluated on their contributions to discussions online. I mean, that's kind of a strange thing to explain to someone who's only been evaluated on exams or papers. You know, you're going to grade me on what I say. Well, is that an opinion? Is it correct? You know, does it, you know, those types of things. So really spending time at the beginning of a course on these things that you hear is so important to setting up those expectations. And if you know that the instructor is aware of where you're coming from, you'll be more comfortable as well.
So you have touched on really important aspects that actually revert back to some of the best practices in online pedagogy. And this is where I would like to open. Yes.
I have someone on my phone wants to participate.
Okay.
Hello, this is Lian Fenqie. To talk about the challenges for international students, I just happened to be on the side. For this workshop, I was in China and I was not able to open any page at all. So that was I think, the first tech problem, because in China, Google, anything related to Google is blocked. So if there is an application such as YouTube video clip or Google applications so related, nothing can be opened there. So this was my big challenge when I signed up for the e-certificate workshop. So in the past 1.5 months, I was not able to access at all. Second is that most of the Chinese students are more open-ended questions for homeworks and exams. So multiple choice problems really is not something they are used to it. Communication is a little bit shy. For example, at the beginning, I didn't know what's going on, so I didn't even contact you about the tech problems until I came back on June 24th. So even though I have been here for 21 years, I still think sometimes they have tech problems. If there is no harsh deadline, I'll just wait. So this will give international students a lot of challenges for a real course which has a time deadline.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that into our consideration. We have another person.
Yes. Julie says, it sounds like some of these challenges can be addressed with sound course design. That is a neat way that CEL support this effort to support international students.
Yes, and that actually is part of the burning questions that we had. So we have a number of experts here that can contribute with their opinions on how to bring these best practices in online pedagogy towards the front so we can actually address the needs of our international students as we are also reaching our other students, because some of them actually do overlap. So I don't know if you guys would like to contribute in terms of any of these challenges and best practices in instructional design.
I was specifically thinking about using some of the idioms that, like Judy was talking about, perhaps making sure to stay away from that kind of language and to speak directly, or if you must, if it just is an occasion where it just fits, to offer like a maybe an in-depth explanation, because a lot of these things are kind of homegrown. Not everybody knows. You know, I've got some, we've got some, she's got some, and we would all get lost in translation if they do the same thing. So maybe just speaking directly, and then the professor that was talking about not being able to open things, in a different country. I had never, until I think Judy or Julie or somebody said that, hadn't considered that, you know, everybody is not accessing all the same things at the same time. So I was trying to think to myself, you know, how to make that more accessible for a person. I would hate to say email because that kind of takes away the context of the platform, but does anybody else have any ideas about how to make that an accessible thing that so that they didn't lose that content if they can access Canvas altogether? I'm assuming you should be able to still access Canvas.
I think she ultimately was. Lianfen, were you able to access it all, or did you have to wait until you got back from China?
I was not able to open any pages. So when I accessed the course, all the page background is like a puzzle squares, nothing else. So I came back until, I cannot access anything of the course until I came back on June 21st. Yeah, that was the first day I became new to the course for the short workshop.
So that's something we need to keep in mind,
yeah,
really based on where in the world our students are located.
Yeah, another issue I didn't talk about is the time gap because it's 12 hours difference. So for example, anything workshop after 12:15, it is very difficult for them to participate. It's after midnight.
Yeah, you weren't going to get up at midnight to join in a PD session.
After midnight, in the sense, the traffic is better if they can access.
Oh yeah.
But it's really a work time. Yeah.
And that's a comment that you had made to us that there's less online traffic for your students in other parts of the world as you went later at night too.
Yeah. 2 years ago, my child went to China with me. He was taking the virtual course. Virtual course was accessible, but it's almost not able to work any homework either because the internet connections. So this course, for some reason, was not able to be accessed during the time I was in China for 1.5 months. So just let you know.
Marcella, you have someone else?
Yes, Veronica would like to say something.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, wonderful. I'm just wanted to give you an observation on the challenges and what Julie mentioned about the Center of eLearning and what could be addressed. Comparing face-to-face to online, I have observed that many of the challenges come from grammar and syntax. And the accents and the jargon and the pop culture references that I personally use a lot to engage students in face-to-face. And I have found that international students, I challenge myself to find some personal pop culture references from their specific countries to help everyone and create a more inclusive experience. And translating that into online is a bit of a challenge, but also something I wanted to mention as an observation. The more I teach online, the more I focus on providing access, more inclusive access to students with disabilities, or as I will prefer to say, with different abilities. And the more I execute on delivery methods for students with different abilities, the more I see that that is helpful to international students that learn differently. So I have incorporated much more written comments on PowerPoint charts to accompany audio, also scripts to my own videos, and making sure that the videos I include have closed captions. So I think international students will benefit from that as well. Just food for thought, and wanted to get your comments on that specific way of addressing those challenges.
And like we said, some of our best practices overlap and end up reaching every student in our classroom. Okay, now we're gonna hear from another, again, from our faculty member. And I don't know if you guys will have any thoughts to wrap it up at the end. And then we'll just briefly talk about our references and our next PD sessions.
The second question speaks about unique challenges associated with international students in an online classroom. I think the main challenge, of course, is to have a sense of belonging, some sort of feeling of acceptance that they belong to a community. I believe that whatever efforts we make using the traditional discussion board and collaborative tools will be needed and will be important for international students to feel welcome, to feel that they belong. I had the privilege during my master's studies to belong to a very selected group sponsored by Philips Research Company, 28 engineers from 18 different countries around the globe, recruited by local Philips subsidiaries. And I know firsthand how it feels to feel welcome. And if there's anything we can learn from universities such as the Dutch universities in general, and also Scandinavian universities are very good at doing this, and emulating here at FAU, those things should definitely be considered, whether we do that in traditional courses or, for the sake of this discussion, in online classrooms.
All right, so unfortunately, we are running out of time, and like we expected, this is only the beginning of a conversation that hopefully will create awareness and result in a new direction for us and everybody involved in creating synergies to help our international students. So some of these strategies we got from our audience in our survey in terms of addressing those challenges: the use of synchronous learning communication tools, small group exercises, and trying to have a mentor or a buddy system so students have that personal connection. Also the use of online tutorials. Try to survey our students in advance about and to learn about their learning needs and styles. Very important to provide concise instructions. Try not to confuse the student with vernacular. English is an extremely idiomatic language, very, very hard to understand for people who are not born into it. Opportunities for Skype meetings and other kinds of synchronous communications. E-text opportunities with translators or voice readers so that the student can hear the text in the language of choice in English. So this is a conversation to be continued because we actually got to the end of our presentation today. We want to thank our panel members for coming here today and every single person who joined us virtually for coming today and participating in these really important conversation. Burning questions or takeaway. How are we as faculty members in a unique position to address the needs of these students? And how does doing that impact our practice and our class at large? So to be continued. And I want to conclude with this quote by Dale Carnegie. So a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sounds in any language. So we thank you all for coming. You all have our emails. You know where to find us. If you those doing certification with us, you can always contribute on Canvas. Resources. We have a handout of resources for international students. Places like Writing Center Online, eSuccess, places for students to go. And we also have, if we go back to the presentation, a list of references that we can make available for anybody who is interested. Next week, we will be talking about partnership for 21st century learning and your online course. And the next week, we're going to be having an interesting conversation about open educational resources. Thank you again for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.